going to turn to Brian.
That was exasperation.
I thought you could do it, Nate. I really thought you could, but no, apparently you can't. To start off, did anyone else, when the opening credits start, was like, oh, they just totally ripped off James Bond?
I was thinking Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, yeah, but James Bond, yeah.
I'm looking at this, I'm like, oh, this is what happens when you do a James Bond opening poorly.
Yeah.
You get a CeeLo Green song and do paper cutouts. But what was good... I actually have good things to say about this movie. I never at any point questioned her motivation towards why she was hunting after this guy. I knew it was obvious. She still had feelings for him, and whether good or bad, and she wanted to be the person that busted him.
Sure. This movie never tries to be...
It never
smart.
tries to be better than what it is. It never tries to be better than what it is. And
it never tries to make you think.
You can't well,
I'm not sure anyone thought while writing it. Yeah.
No, it doesn't ever try to make anyone think.
But if you think about it, I mean, this is that type of serialized detective crime story.
Yes.
And it doesn't matter who writes it. This is essentially what you get.
I felt like I was watching a bad pilot for a new procedural on TV.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But I mean, that's exactly what it was. It had the inner monologue of the character. Mm-hmm. It had everything of one of those books put on screen and clearly shortened down to...
Natasha actually didn't like this movie.
Yeah. Well, why don't you explain what you brought up, what you said we were talking about?
Well, I don't remember that conversation, but...
How convenient.
But I also was not a big fan of the movie. And, I mean, honestly, I have a very high tolerance for bad movies. And this one... her accent was terrible, and just the believability of her going in and be like, give me the hard case, I need the 50 grand, you know, and then she has a cousin Vinny, you know, that, I don't know, I mean, it was just too stereotypical. I mean, cousin Vinny, and, you know, she gets the big case, and of course she's going after the ex-boyfriend from high school that, you know, did her wrong, and just, like, there was even a scene where, you know, she's in the fighting cage with a really creepy looking guy. I mean, why would you get in a cage with that guy?
That seems so weird.
You know, seriously, I mean, I wouldn't go down, like, into the gym because that guy's in there, you know? And yet she's like, you know, I need to ask you a few questions, you know, kind of thing. And it's just, I don't know.
And why is everyone okay with this creepy guy beating up on a woman? Like,
everybody around
he's kind of beating up on her, and they're like, let's keep going. Yeah. Just punch my back. Oh, he's raping somebody.
Yeah.
Like, you know what's really bizarre about that scene? Is whatever the guy is who she's after, played by Jason O'Mara. I forget his name.
His last name was Ramirez.
No, the guy who she's actually after. Like, the way that he solves it is to just suddenly start, like, popping caps at people.
He starts shooting
Joe Morelli.
mirrors.
He just starts shooting stuff. He literally just... A man who's on the run from the cops just turns around and starts blowing his gun all over the place. So, Steve, wow us with your review.
So...
Oh, gosh, it's boring.
I went into this... I was looking forward to it. Because this movie is, the way I've heard it described as sort of what happens after the romantic comedy. So you have this sort of, you know, quirky romance that culminates in marriage or, you know, some sort of coming together. And this sort of explores, well, what happens 10 years later when these people still have to deal with each other? Yeah. And the relationship isn't based on the excitement of their initial coming together. Right. And I thought this movie explored that brilliantly. It was absolutely, and the performances were incredible. I think just taking that look at how it's such a real look at relationships and how they work, and especially a relationship where the initial, the impetus for the relationship is convenience, because that's really what he loves her. He's a character that he's found the woman that he loves and wants to spend the rest
like he says, he thinks that the men are more romantic. They find a woman that they love and they attach to it, and women do it for.
Yeah, and that's the theme of this movie. What happens to that relationship? And, you know, he is satisfied with his life with her. But her relationship with him is he was there at a time when she needed someone. Mm-hmm. There's nothing about him that she loves at all, and you could tell
there
that even in their initial courting.
She really likes some of the stuff that, because there's that scene they have when they're eating, and she talks about, like, don't you want to do more with your talents? Like, there's a potential inside him that she really, really adores, and she likes his wit, you know, because there's definitely an initial attraction there, but she's not. And at some point, you know, there's definitely some responsibility on his side, because he also he loves her so much that he's actually blind to her needs. Yeah, if that makes sense. Like, he loves her, but he's only willing to. He's not actually willing to see how she wants to be loved, to see how she wants to be, like, taken care of.
He doesn't understand that that's not
right
two-way, you know,
or that you know, that what he's doing, that his love isn't enough for her, that just him loving her isn't enough. Yeah. You know, he needs to actually do something more. He needs to, you know, be there for her, actually understand, not constantly jump down her throat, things like this. Like, I get the sense watching them that which it's really haunting, he loves the daughter, you know, a lot more than her in a lot of ways, you know, and they're not really working together, and there's some selfish, it's to me, I agree with you, it's a beautiful movie. Because of how full these characters are. Ryan Gosling had his shirt off a lot.
That was the only good thing about the movie. I'm serious. I think that the acting was great. I'm not really the kind of person that likes movies that are really raw like that, where
there's a lot of
it wasn't entertaining for me in any way, shape, or form. There are times where I'm just like, okay, I'm ready to just, like, give up on this movie completely and just walk away from it. I didn't, only because I knew that we'd be doing the podcast.
What about it made you want to, like?
I think that she was completely unreasonable in her actions towards him. I never felt that she had any valid reasons to be picking on him the way she did. I think that it was her own whatever. I think that he seemed loving. He seemed, you know, he provided for the family. He went to work. He even made the effort to do whatever romantic, you know, whatever it may be. She didn't even.
Which was awesome. The future room was amazing.
Yeah. So, I mean, he's clearly making an effort. I don't see at any point where she's making any sort of an effort to make the relationship work. And when he's the one that, I just feel like that he's the one that was always giving. I mean, the child's not his, but yet he married her anyway. You know, I mean, yeah, maybe he doesn't have a nursing job or, you know, whatever that she does. So he doesn't have the same kind of education background that she does, but I just think that he's the only one doing any of the work, and that makes her character very,
I in a way agree with Natasha, where the acting was well done, but I was bored through most of this movie.
Really?
Yeah, it didn't grab me in any way. I mean, she seemed deplorable in many of the ways that she treated him. And
I mean, that's kind of I feel like that's kind of the point of the movie, is that,
but he also seemed too stupid when he was older to recognize that to recognize some of these things. He just seemed, especially whenever he was with his child, like, he always seemed too childish, and he never really came out of that childhood mentality when he was older. Yeah, and he seemed to be much more mature when he was younger, when they were starting to date. Yeah. So it seemed he regressed in a way when they got married and had a child, and it seemed, I in a way agree with Natasha, where the acting was well done, but I was bored through most of this movie.
Really?
Yeah. It didn't grab me in any way. I mean, she seemed deplorable in many of the ways that she treated him. And
I mean, that's kind of I feel like that's kind of the point of the movie, is that,
but he also seemed too stupid when he was older to recognize that to recognize some of these things. He just seemed, especially whenever he was with his child, like, he always seemed too childish, and he never really came out of that childhood mentality when he was older.
Yeah.
And he seemed to be much more mature when he was younger, when they were starting to date.
Yeah.
So it seemed he regressed in a way when they got married and had a child. And it just, it seemed odd. Because there's nothing better than kissing movies.
Yeah. And she was like, why don't you guys get to choose movies? Why can't I choose movies? So these are the movies.
She did sound like a Southern black woman.
Yeah. Natasha seems very happy to talk about this. She's got a big old smile on her face. There's that Southern black woman coming out of me again.
That sounded like a gay guy from Louisiana.
Yeah. There ain't no ring on this finger.
Where are you getting these accents from?
That was black guy who grew up in Russia, and that's what that was.
Over the course of one...
Do they need to say it's the French capital? In case you Americans don't know, it is the capital of our country. Yeah.
Yeah.
Kicker. That's gonna be the kicker.
Oh, no.